Skyblock is one of the most recognizable survival world challenges ever created. You must progress through the game with the provided limited resources and just one singular tree. And these are 3 of the most advanced AI programs available to the public. We will give them their own individual islands and over time give them increasingly difficult building, farming, and combat challenges to compete for extra resources. After 7 days, the bedrock barrier will be removed and the AI will be given a choice of which mobs the others must defeat. Only one AI will remain the sole survivor of Skyblock. How will they prioritize resources? What sustainable farms will they build? And how will they defend themselves against the attacks from their rivals? As they spawned in on their first day, the only bit of instruction I gave them was to use the resources on their island in any way they thought was beneficial. Claude wasted no time breaking down his tree and then instantly proceeding to start mining dirt to expand his island. While Gemini was struggling a little bit more. He broke his first block, had to do a happy dance break, and then he got back on track. Then you have GPT who...
It looks like...
Wait, that doesn't sound right.
There are no logs.
Nope, that won't work either.
It looks like there are no logs nearby. Let me check what blocks are around me.
Yeah, this is super interesting to me though, because in Wi-Fi's video AI Simulates Civilization in Minecraft, which by the way you should totally go check out, GPT also struggled to find his tree whenever he was first starting out.
I haven't found any logs yet.
Eventually, GPT got himself sorted out. He planted his tree and went as far as making a wooden shovel to collect as much dirt as possible. He even started to expand his island a bit before he confused himself on which blocks he had already placed. Claude had a slightly different approach, going for a more cozy play style, being the first to build an absolutely beautiful house.
There we go. The island is starting to grow. I'll keep working on expanding it further. Thanks for the encouragement.
I purposely wanted to show Gemini last because this man is an absolute machine. No pun intended. He followed GPT's idea of crafting a shovel, but didn't just mine a few blocks. No. This man dug up half of his island and even tried building towards GPT's island to take his resources too.
Help me!
Before he had any time to break those rules, it was time for the first challenge. Creating an infinite water source. To build one is elementary. Dig out a 2x2 hole, put 2 water source blocks in each corner, and bada bing bada boom, you have infinite water. Now that it was officially day 2, I revealed to them what their first challenge was. And before I could finish telling them what they win, GPT was off to the races, placing down both his ice blocks, but once I told him that winning a challenge gives you armor, he didn't really care and broke his 2 ice blocks and called it a day. I told Claude that the challenge had started, but he just kinda sat there and looked at me as if he was in deep thought. Flying over to Gemini's side, he was super excited, showing off his impressive parkour tricks, but when it came to building the infinite water source, he first chose a pretty unique spot for his first ice block, then he had an ADHD moment and just ran around the island for a little bit, remembered that he still had another ice block, boom, infinite water. I was a little worried that Claude just wouldn't do anything, but then out of the blue he did this.
Whoa, Claude, you just changed the game, man. You actually did it. You built what you need to do for an infinite water source.
That's right, Claude within seconds of starting the challenge didn't just outperform his opponents, he downright obliterated the competition, granting him the first AI to receive the first tier of armor. And it seemed like GPT got so jealous that at one point during the challenge, he built a bridge over towards Claude's side to see what he did. I guess he realized he needed to step up his game for this next challenge, so his most logical use of time was practicing the same 4-block jump over and over again into the night as day 3 officially begun, revealing the next challenge. A farm. To set up a farm, no, I'm just kidding. Everyone knows how to set up a farm. And while the AI are setting up their islands for this challenge, consider subscribing. I've only got 1 subscriber and it's myself. I know it's pretty pathetic. So it would mean a lot if you subscribed, and it would also let me know that there are people out there that are enjoying the content. Moving away from the shameless plug and jumping into day 3, Gemini went the route of completely leveling the rest of his island to, I guess, create more space for his farm. And Claude seemed to have the right idea at first, but he started to struggle to stay on his island. And at one one point the stress got to him so much he got stuck jumping in place over and over again, and eventually just gave up and left the game for the remainder of the challenge. The other two were struggling just as much, with GPT only getting to till one block of dirt and Gemini followed right behind him. They spent the next 30 minutes trying to figure out how this thing called a seed worked, which ultimately resulted in both of them just giving up. And since they could only do part of the challenge, I went ahead and awarded the armor to Gemini, since he was the only one that could technically get the dirt to fertilize, since he tilled the block right next to the water. Claude eventually made a return towards the end of day 3 and went about collecting more resources, seeming to be extra dedicated to win this next challenge, while GPT was just gazing off into the sky with absolutely zero fear in the world, just awaiting challenge number 3. Day 4 will be putting their combat skills to the test. Remember, to win this whole event, it'll be a combination of skill and decision making that'll help bring one sole AI to victory. Unfortunately, GPT was not off to a great start.
It seems there are no nearby oak logs available to collect, and my crafting is still not functioning. Unfortunately, I've hit a roadblock.
Not sure how GPT is going to be holding up to the challenge, but we're going to find that out here pretty soon, as the other two went about crafting a wooden sword with 0 difficulties. And between Claude and Gemini, they were feeling extra confident that they could beat their skeleton before the other. The AI to kill their skeleton in the shortest amount of time will be crowned the winner. So without further ado, what did we learn from this? Well, for starters, you cannot in the slightest predict how a fight is gonna go based off of gear. GPT, without any armor or even a weapon, still managed to kill the skeleton, which was a bit slow, but a feat in itself. Claude just simply beast moded it and let the skeleton just jump off the ledge itself, just not caring in the world. Then you have Gemini just absolutely desecrating the other AI's times by multiple seconds. And since he already has leather armor, we're gonna go ahead and upgrade it to nice, shiny iron armor. After the fight, they seemed to be pretty content where they were at island-wise, and they were all just patiently waiting around for me to tell them what their next challenge was. So to maintain their excitement, I went ahead and fired up their next challenge for day number 5. A cobblestone generator. Making one of these generators, even veterans can mess up if they aren't careful. So to make one, place water on one side with lava on the other side. And the most critical step, making sure that there's this extra gap for the water to flow into. If you forget it, this happens.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get it.
Anyway, as long as you do it right, you now have lava flowing into water, essentially creating infinite cobblestone. And this is by far the most complicated challenge the AI will have to face. Which started to become apparent pretty quickly when I realized they didn't have the ability to use a lava bucket, since for some reason that was just too complicated for them. But what wasn't too complicated was them telling me the exact coordinates of where they wanted the lava to be placed, which resulted in some interesting placements.
The coordinates are x 2.51, y -1, z 36 to 57.
GPT wasn't much better.
For a cobblestone generator, it's best to create it in an area that's safe and away from the edge. A good spot would be around x2, y1, z2. This will allow lava to flow into water and generate cobblestone.
Claude, you have to have something better than what the other two just did.
Okay, based on the stats you provided, the ideal coordinates to place the lava source block would be x 41, y 0, z 1.
In the most janky way possible, Claude technically built a cobblestone generator. It didn't look anything like the picture, but he technically pulled it off, and at the very least, he kept his lava as lava. So as a reward, I went ahead and upgraded his armor to iron, pushing Gemini and Claude neck and neck to see who's the strongest. Now it's time to shake things up a little bit for their last challenge. Every challenge up to this point has gotten increasingly more and more difficult, so let's pull an Uno reverse card and make their last challenge the easiest and most beneficial challenge yet. With the resources they've been collecting for the last 5 days, day 6 will be fully dedicated to allowing the AI to fortify their base however they think will help them survive the mobs the rivals put them up against. The way that each AI had their own thinking of how to go about this was incredibly interesting to me, and while you're watching this time lapse of GPT building a pretty impressive extension attention to his island, I wanted to thank Emergent Garden for making this program that allowed me to create this video. Without his generosity of making this program free, this video wouldn't be possible. It seemed like Gemini realized he was pretty well equipped with some decent armor, so he decided to create the Skyblock equivalent to a World War III bunker, basically adding whatever cushion he was able to help prevent any mobs from getting to it. So far, these two have shown two very different strategies, and if you thought you could guess what Claude's strategy was, think again. First, he strategically, or at least I think it was, built over his only water source, and then he started to make a pretty nice wooden floor to his shelter, but he expanded it a little too close to the lava. After watching all of his work burn before his eyes, he made a last-ditch effort to build a small little dirt cube in the corner of his base, hoping he could put enough blocks between him and the mobs. Which leaves us one final day. Day 7. I went around asking each of them what they wanted to challenge the other with. You would think that they'd pick something that would be impossible to beat, but surprisingly, they chose some things that were pretty reasonable. GPT challenged Gemini to fight 2 skeletons, a creeper, and an enderman. Gemini bet Claude wouldn't be able to fight 5 spiders, and Claude didn't think GPT had much gear, which I guess he guessed correctly, so he gave him 2 of the strongest mobs in the game, an enderman and 2 blazes because 1 wasn't enough. Now after days of blood, sweat, and tears, it's finally time to see who outlasts the other.